even if he had been baptized a Catholic. Maddox left no likeness, and no references to his appearance exist beyond mention of the crimson cloak he wore year after year. The description of the theater in Chayanov's fictional story is based on research by the author's wife, Olga, a cultural historian. For Maddox himself, Chayanov relied on his mind's eye, embellishing the contemporaneous accounts of the impresario's diabolical will, with a reference to infernal breathing. The protagonist of the story glimpses Maddox during an opera, illuminated by the chandeliers that remained lit during the performance, as was then the custom. He is imagined sitting amid undulating waves of blue and black tailcoats, fluttering fans and sparkling lorgnettes, silk bodices, and Brabant lace capes. Maddox exits the auditorium before the second act. The protagonist follows through vaguely lit corridors, up and down stone staircases, past the dressing room of a soprano singing the part of a shackled slave. Maddox is described as tall, with a dusting of grey hair, dressed in a coat of antique cut, oddly blank in affect. There were no tongues of fire circling him, no stink of sulphur. Everything about him seemed quite ordinary and normal, the novelist writes. But this diabolical ordinariness was saturated with meaning and power. Maddox comes and goes in the story, which ends in the slush outside of the theater, the protagonist encased in the Moscow night, and an atmosphere of neurosis. The real Michael Maddox was born in England on May 14, 1747, though he claimed to have ancient Russian roots. His Protestant ancestors had immigrated to Russia in the 17th century, the era of the Catholic Stuart monarchy, to escape religious persecution. He was the sole surviving son of the English actor, Tom Maddox, who, with all his family and troupe, perished in a cargo boat crash near the port of Holyhead, all except one infant who floated ashore in a cradle. The orphan was raised by his uncle, Seward, a trumpeter. Following in his father's footsteps, Maddox became an entertainer, performing tightrope acts in the 1750s at Haymarket Theatre and Covent Garden in London. He balanced a mere 3 feet above the stage, less to reduce the danger to himself than to his audience. Toward the end of the act, he would hover on 1 foot while balancing a straw on the edge of a glass and plinking a fiddle. Other anecdotes from London have him blowing a horn and banging a drum on the slack wire. He also tumbled and conducted unspecified physical and mechanical experiments. Outside of London, he acted in saltbox theaters and manipulated fairground puppets, with Punch as his favorite. In York, during race week, he and his troupe performed morning and evening at Merchants' Adventurers' Hall, among other venues. In the southwest English town of Bath, he entertained ladies and gentlemen along with the servants who held their places while their masters mingled at Simpson's rooms. For a considerable salary, Maddox pivoted and swung above the audience while balancing a coach wheel and juggling a dozen balls. Lore has it that Maddox was engaged in mysterious business dealings throughout Europe, which perhaps explains his connections to the English and Russian diplomats, George Macartney and Nikita Panin, who brokered his first visit to Russia in January 1767. Notice of his tightrope act appeared in St. Petersburg in October of that year. The language in the newspaper bulletin suggested a certain age of curiosity's excitement about Maddox's debut in the imperial capital. Herewith it is declared that the celebrated English equilibrist, Michael Maddox, will be demonstrating his art in the Wood Winter Home, to which all inclined respectable individuals are invited. Maddox went to Russia without means, and without knowing the language, but managed, after falsely claiming an Oxford education.